The school's adjusting practice schedules due to this heat we have going on out there. Keeping athletes hydrated, of course, is very critical.
Yeah, athletic trainers are suggesting some extra ways, though, to remain hydrated through practices and games. WKYT's Alexa Minton has more.
UK football start is just around the corner, and athletes are grappling with ways to remain hydrated despite the heat. One tactic trainers are using for hydration is pushing athletes to replace electrolytes while simultaneously hydrating.
When you're doing physical activity, you tend to sweat a lot, but if it's a hot day, it tends to make you sweat more, and a lot of times that sweat includes a lot of electrolytes like sodium, chloride, potassium. And these are really important electrolytes in our body. So in order to make sure we're replenishing those, we need to be able to give athletes more than just water.
Gatorade, a popular electrolyte replenisher, originated due to the efforts of a University of Florida football coach in order to best replace the bodily fluids lost during physical activity and intense heat. Electrolyte drinks are now widely used by trainers, dietitians, and athletes across the country, particularly football players who lose substantial amounts of water weight during those hot early season games.
And athletes over the course of an hour can lose 2 to 3% of their body weight, and that could equate to somewhere between 3 to 5 pounds per hour. And that can also reduce their ability to concentrate and their ability to think, which is clearly related to performance as well.
UK football still has a week of weather before their kickoff game, but most high schools in Kentucky have already started their football Friday nights. Sophomore tight end Josh Caddis wanted to share his tips to younger players on how best to hydrate before game time.
The hydration process starts that Monday. You know, don't just think, okay, we're playing on Friday, I should probably drink some water. No, you got to do it Monday through Friday to have a peak athletic performance out there.
In Lexington, Alexa Minton, WKYT.